Well, back at it, we felt like we improved a little bit last week in our game in some areas that we wanted to show signs of improvement. As I said afterwards, we're seem to be in good shape right now. We're a healthy football team. I like our attitude, and got the players together last night, had a good workout, and day off today, and getting ready to prepare. We need a great week of practice before we travel down to Austin. Obviously, it'll be the most competitive game that we've been in up to this point, the toughest team that we've played, most talented team. So got a lot of work ahead of us, looking forward to the game.
What's the biggest challenge? How do you contain a run-pass quarterback like Hurd he displayed on Saturday?
Well, it changes your rush lanes a little bit, your contained lanes. At times you have to have somebody responsible for him. He's obviously very active, and so we haven't gotten that far. We've just gotten started, but by the middle of the week we'll have a plan in place and do everything we can to contain him and to try to limit some of the big runs and big plays that he's been able to get in the last game and a little bit that he played in the game before that.
You made Mason Rudolph the starter here last year, Mike. It seemed to energize everybody and had a positive effect throughout the program. Do you sense maybe that little of that might be going on with Gerard Hurd in Texas right now?
Well, I don't know what's going on down there. Obviously, I'm not there. I don't think there's any question they found a quarterback. That I'm just guessing from an outsider looking in that he's their quarterback of the future. I think isn't he a redshirt freshman? So he's going to be there a while, and I would guess that he would continue to get better and improve. But he looked good to us, and the time that I saw him on live TV and then obviously on tape that he's, in our opinion, seems to be their future at this point.
Considering your relationship with Guyer High School, you must have gotten quite a bit of looks at him as a high school guy too, right?
Sure, we were aware of him, and at times we can get in on some players and percentages, and in most cases, players that are from there that get offered by Texas are going to go to Texas before they come to Oklahoma State.
Mike, talk a little bit about Jordan Stearns. I was asked this week why we didn't hear more about him, so I told a friend I'd ask you to talk about Jordan Stearns.
About what?
Just about his play. And
well, Jordan's been a steady player for us. He gets a few more reps than what we would want him to, and he plays one of those positions that if he doesn't get a fumble or an interception, you don't hear a lot about him. But he had 61 plays in the last game. He's been reliable. He's tackled well. He's been a good leader for us. He's been a physical player.
Judging from his demeanor, do you think, even though he's a really young quarterback, that Mason may be past any wow moments as far as who he's playing against, where he's playing, the scene being too big or bigger than he's able to handle? You think he's past that?
I can't imagine that would factor in with him at this point. I think he's a very mild-mannered, easygoing style of player and personality, and I don't foresee that being any issue at this point.
I know you don't get to hear it a lot, but on the sidelines when you've got J-Dub, who's been around and seen as much as he has, and Mason's got a pretty good acumen, that you've got those quarterbacks behind you when the defense is on the field, exchanging information and doing a pretty good job of helping each other out.
Well, they have a good relationship, and as I'd mentioned, not necessarily have to talk about it again, but J.W.'s been tremendous for Mason, and they've worked good together, and eventually J.W. wants to be a coach, and he'll be able to coach. He's been through it. He had a good mentor with his father, and I think he's getting great training and playing at this level. But even Taylor, those guys have good lines of communication. They understand the game. They understand our system now, and they help Mason out a lot during those times.
Mike, talking about recruiting, you said Texas usually gets the players that they offer. Mm-hmm. Once upon a time, that was a huge deal. Doesn't seem like it's worked out as so much as well for them lately.
Meaning,
I'm guessing you probably like your roster as much as.
Oh, we like our players. I was just making a point. He'd brought up Hurd that the players in the state of Texas, if they get an offer from Texas, in most cases there's a pretty high percentage that they're going to go to Texas. That's just kind of the way it's been for us. We like the players that we have here. Sometimes we take players that other people don't think are up to par to play at this level for whatever reason. But I've said this, I'm a firm believer in our system and what we do here, and I think we make players better than they really are, and it helps in the long run and creates a great chemistry for our group. But there's a number of players at this time for young men that are graduating and will be in the 17 class that we offer, and if there's 30 of them, we offer 27 of them at some point, if they get offered by Texas, won't be on our radar 6 months later.
You guys won 3 in a row in Austin, and J-Dub said the reason why you won those games, you had maturity on those teams. Do you see any characteristics with those teams that have won in Austin on this team this year?
Well, the teams that won down there were good teams. We had skilled players that made plays, and we had a good team chemistry and some of the maturity that he's talking about. I wouldn't say we're quite as mature as we were when we won those games now. We've got a number of players that played last year that are gaining ground and getting to that point, but I don't know that we're that mature yet as a football team. We could be on defense. So, in order to win in this league on the road, you obviously have to be able to run the football, and you have to control the turnover game and be sound in special teams. And it very seldom changes a lot when you try to make comparisons and how to win on the road. It's been pretty consistent for our team.
You said that the 2010 game down there was one of the most significant because you got over that hump and finally beat them. But, just how satisfying was it to finally beat those guys after you'd been involved in so many close calls and weird finishes against Texas?
Well, it's always good to be able to beat a team that we had not been able to beat, and especially on the road. And Texas is a very historic, traditional school when it comes to football, and it's a really good accomplishment for our team and in our program when we're able to beat them, and especially on the road. And there's a number of games that I think were critical in developing Oklahoma State football, and certainly that year was one of those accomplishments.
So if that was one of the more satisfying, was the 07 game the most sickening, or 1-0?
You going back so far? I had a problem with 10. Was Vince Young the quarterback then, or Colt McCoy, or I didn't like any of them. But I know one of them we were ahead by 20-something points. I think the guy that plays for Kansas City ran for a long run, and then they threw a long pass, and somebody else made a big play. I can't remember, but we had always played pretty well against them, but we couldn't get over that hump, and so that's why 10, it was nice to get over the hump against them.
7, Jacob Lacey had 3 picks.
Yeah, they all run together for me. I can remember the bad things that happen, but not necessarily the good things. So,
Mike, with the quarterback changes, they've also had the change in their coaching assignments. Schematically, are they a lot different than they were a couple of weeks ago on offense?
Yes. Well, the quarterback makes a big difference, but their philosophy. Well, let me back up. It looks different now than it did. Maybe it's the same plays, it just looked different. But and it very well could have. Some of the formations and the style of blocking schemes were similar. Without being inside, it'd be hard for me to say exact, but there could be more similarities than what maybe I thought. I guess the quarterback maybe just makes it look a lot different.
Does the guy, because Jay Novell's now running things, are there characteristics about him that you know from his past that can help you, or that you see that the offense has changed?
I don't have a lot of familiarity with him and coaching, and I don't know that how much input he had at Oklahoma, so we hadn't put any stock in that.
With Hurd now at quarterback, they certainly seem to have a spark there on offense. On defense, though, it looks like they have struggled to stop people running and passing. When you look at their defense, they've got a lot of individual talent, but what do you see team-wise with them?
Well, kind of what you said. The numbers probably aren't what maybe they would want them to be, but there's some good players there that can run. There's guys that can make plays, and they tackle. They're big up front. They're physical. Cal had a nice scheme against them. Notre Dame had a little different scheme based on the type of quarterback that they used. We don't necessarily fit their style as much, but they're extremely talented and can run, and they're big up front.
Is your offensive scheme similar to Cal?
Not really. Cal is a more of a what would be a spread, a little bit more of an air raid. They rushed the ball well in that game, but we're a little different from a cowboy back, fullback, tight end team than what Cal is right now, just from watching on tape.
Most coaches choose their words so carefully. Very few really colorful, outspoken coaches for a lot of reasons. But is there a part of you, since you don't have an involvement in it, is there a part of you that got a kick out of what Kingsbury had to say about Arkansas the other day?
I didn't hear it. Somebody mentioned it this morning on one of my teleconference calls, and I had not heard that. But I obviously live in a different world and hadn't got that far. I've heard people mention it since then, just what you have, but I hadn't really gotten into what all took place there.
Big 12 guy to go into an SEC stadium, win impressively, and then fire a shot like that. I just wondered if other league coaches kind of appreciate that a little bit.
And I didn't hear exactly what he said, but obviously he was upset about something in order to say it, but I hadn't really gotten that far.
Apparently, Bielema went into the Texas Coaches Convention and was bragging about if you don't play with a fullback and if you try to play basically an air raid type offense, we're going to kick your you-know-what. And so Kingsbury fired back on that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he probably took it personal if he came into Texas and said it in a Texas high school clink, would be my guess. But I'll be sure and ask Cliff about that next time I see him. Might be good for entertainment.
Or Google it. You might want to Google it.
Google it. I'm not good at Googling, so.
It is
You
strong.
spend Sunday with your kids watching YouTube.
Do they well, that's usually in the mornings before I go to work. Do they play them again? Are they off the schedule with each other?
That's the end of the series.
Yeah.
Last of three.
It's a good call. On the way out. So, no, Brett's a friend of mine, obviously Cliff is, so, sometimes there's some heated exchanges there, but it's usually at the end of a series. So.
What do you think about that starting backfield for the Dallas Cowboys? Whedon and Bishop being out.
Whedon and Joe Randall, yeah. I'm excited. I hate it for Romo. Really, a competitive guy, but excited for Brandon and all the guys. I have not seen them play, but I did see a few plays at times, and it's fun to watch Patman, and I see him out there, and then of course Joe and Dan's doing good, and so I'm happy for those guys, and I think Brandon will do fine. I really do. I don't know much about the NFL, but I think he'll play better than he did a year ago just from his experience.
Did you ever think you'd see Dan Bailey get a personal foul penalty?
I didn't know he got one.
Oh my gosh.
What'd he do?
He sort of, I didn't think he deserved it. He sort of put his hands on DeMarco when DeMarco ran out of bounds into him. And
Oh, no, I did not ever think that. And again, that's the first I'd heard about that. So we need to, I need.
Blood on his jersey too. Don't see much blood on kickers' jerseys.
How'd he get that?
Off DeMarco's hand when he was trying to hold him there.
I see.
Yeah, there was some blood on DeMarco's hand. Malik Jefferson, I know you mentioned their defense. The numbers aren't what they want. The freshman linebacker for them, 46, if you've watched some tape, is a guy that, like you said, everybody offered. I think Oklahoma State probably offered him. And
Sure.
He went to Texas. He's become as a freshman, he's exceptional.
He was one of those 5-star guys, and I guess he's a 5-star. I remember we offered him, but we never really got in the game. I think he was from Mesquite Poteet, and I saw him play against Notre Dame and made some plays. He's got tremendous agility and speed and body control for a young player, and he'll certainly be a player that the teams in this league will get tired of seeing over a 3-year period.
You guys have a very deep wide receiver core, but is it at all surprising to you that out of that group, it's been David Glidden who's risen to the top? He seems to be coming on in every game.
He's played well, and they brought up David last week, and he's at this point has kind of mastered his craft in his own world and maximizes the opportunities that he has. He's a good route runner. He makes his catches, plays physical, and at times we can't really determine who gets the ball. It's more based on how we're defended at times, and he's been in the right place at the right time in the first few games.
How's your offensive line? Are they getting better week to week, you think?
I think they're getting a little better. We got a ways to go. And I said it from preseason camp and each week that I think they're improving a little more. They're gaining some experience. They're learning to work together. And over these next 3 or 4 weeks, we'll find out a lot about our offensive line and our running game and kind of where we stand. And hopefully we can migrate toward the strengths of our offense and try to work to where we think that we can get the ball in the hand of the guys that can make plays and score points, and try to stay away from areas where we think we're a little deficient.
In a rhythm, momentum, kind of like a groove or whatever when they see success.
I don't know if that, not like a hitter in baseball or a pitcher. I don't think that would really be something you would see an offensive line doing. I think those guys just have to work together, and they just have to improve. And experience at those positions are so important. You can take a third-year player in an offensive line that's not physically talented enough to even get into an NFL camp, but he can be a good college player just from experience, just in knowing how to leverage his body and steps and read defenders and just things that can really factor in to being successful at this level and not being talented enough to even get a shot in the NFL.
This is obviously a different test for your defensive tackles, but through 3 weeks, have they progressed faster than maybe you expected at the start of camp?
I would say they're a little ahead of where I thought they would be. Vince is playing good, and Mote's given us some good quality reps. I like what Eric Davis has done. Eric Davis went from a year ago, a guy that I wasn't sure was going to ever turn the corner, and he hasn't turned the corner. He's just peeking around it, but he's playing better. And then Darian Daniels has exceeded what my expectations would be for a true freshman to play in the interior defense at this level.
Mike, do you pay much attention to time of possession, something that you look at? Is it a priority? Does it have anything?
Hadn't looked at time of possession in 12 years.
You ever talk to your Texas guys about this week? Do they get a little bit more juice? The guys from the state of Texas.
Oh, I think they do, Myron. They enjoy traveling down there and playing. Their families can get to the game easy. At one point, I thought that we would be able to kind of use the chip on the shoulder of, because the majority of the guys that are on our team didn't get offered by Texas, but I don't think that factors in with really their thought process. I think they just like playing where their family can be close, and obviously it's a big game when you play Texas. I think they enjoy that as much as anything else.
But I mean, you're an Oklahoma guy. I mean, since you invest 80% of your recruiting resources in the state of Texas, this is as big a game for Mike Gundy or as it is for any of these Texas players, right?
Well, it's actually 100. Every coach on our staff has a recruiting area in Texas, and we scour the state, but they all have a recruiting area in Texas for a reason. It's a numbers game, and there's more numbers down there than anywhere else that's geographically located for us. So they're big games. Everybody watches, everybody sees it, so they're important for the program.
Does it help you recruit? I mean, if you win the game, you notice any difference?
I would think so. Players nowadays, young men are influenced by things maybe other than what the public would think they are, but winning certainly is a big factor.
It's obviously tough for you guys to lose Pitt this weekend. What did he mean to this program and all the stuff you've done at Oklahoma State?
Yeah, Pitt was a special person to us. He's been around here off and on since '81. when I showed up here, he was here, and I don't really ever remember him not being here because the years I left and was at other schools, he was gone for a couple, 3 years. When I came back, he was back. And it's been a difficult couple months for us. I first got the call on July 3rd. I was out of town playing baseball, and it was a shocking phone call. And you think, well, you know, it can't be that bad. And then you get back and find out it is. And it's been a struggle then, you know, July, August, half of September. And he's worked. The guy worked. I mean, we got back from Central Michigan. He worked. He came in at 1, worked till 4:30 in the morning. His wife rolled him in a rolling chair up and down the hallway because he was too weak to walk, because he wanted to get to the offices and make sure the coaches had everything they need for the next game. Very sarcastic, always had an opinion, you know, for lack of a better term, considered all coaches dumbasses, that we couldn't figure out our own computers. And he would tell you that. He would tell us that in meetings. But loved what he did. And I said this, and you know, I guess I didn't want to get into too much detail with his family, but you know, the first time he got upset was when he knew he couldn't work. That's the first time he got upset, and he knew he couldn't work. So.
Are y'all going to do something for him, like in the way of a decal?
Yes, we've had a lot of discussions about that. We need to do something for him. He's, like I said, off and on put in really 30 years at this place, and you know, never asked for anything other than just people to respect what he did. I mean, he's one of the best in the country at what he did. Guy loved to work. He did it all the time. So, yes, we're going to do something for him. What that's going to be, I'm not sure, just because I don't know who all's flagpole that I need to fly that up before we do it. So for me to say it now, I'll probably have a bunch of voicemails later. So I would like to do something for him just because of the years of service that he's put into not only football, but you know, he goes all the way back with the Suttons and Gary Ward and Tom Holliday and all those guys before they had the access to video that we have now. He was legging the cameras around and doing it the old-fashioned way. So we need to do something for him, yes.
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I distinctly remember, I think it was the day you got the job or one of your early press conferences, you said you wouldn't do the job unless you had Jeff here in your staff.
Yeah, you know, Rob Glass has been the strength and of our football program when it comes to that side of it. But with Pitt, there's so many things that none of us have a clue other than what he does, and things just don't work, and they couldn't work without him because we've come a long ways from a technology standpoint in the last 6 or 8 years. Prior to that, I mean, it was legwork. You had to really know what you're doing, and we've struggled and would have struggled here big time if it wasn't for him. And he made all the difference now, you know. And anybody that's ever worked for him can go out there now and do anything they want in this profession because he's the best there is. Tough deal. Good? All right.